Ask any person across the globe what the penultimate version of a sports sedan should be, and anyone with a bit of gasoline in their veins will regale you with tales of cars that had 4 doors with room for the whole family, but had a missile for an engine and handled like they were on rails. But here in the modern day, it feels like some of us are singing a bit of a different tune. A lot of people are saying that the sports sedan has lost its way, and it's lost that sort of analog fizz that it gives anybody with a passion for driving. That is unless you're somebody like BMW, which is why I'm here once again at BMW of Houston North, taking a look at this, the newly refinished 2025 M340i. And although she may be curvy and very appealing to the eye, stuffed with as much technology as any tech-savvy person could want, rest assured that under this felt bodywork beats the heart of the very same ethos that started this very car's name 50 years ago. Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. Already she is a treat. Alrighty guys, so as you can see, obviously you're not pointing directly at me, so we are looking right out the windshield of what I would say is already a bit of an interesting feeling, because I almost feel like I'm in an M3, but in my brain my logic is saying I'm not. So but as always, and I can't look away for too long, Mr. Daniel over here, joining me on all of my BMW branded adventures, and he has hooked us up big time. And not just because of certain nuances that are new for exterior, interior sort of feelings on the M340i, but the performance is really where this car has gotten a big, big jump. So, unlike the other, vehicles that we've driven, B48 powered 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, this has what I would almost say is like a diet version of the M3's powertrain. It's not an S58, but it is the much beloved B58 inline 6 3-liter turbo. But now, thanks to the 48-volt mild hybrid system that BMW's been imposing on a lot of their other cars, this now makes 386 horsepower, 398 foot-pounds of torque. And if you can believe it, it's only about a second off of a G80 M3 competition X-Drive. This does 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds. The M3, 3.4 seconds. And yet this is coming out of a car that weighs 3,800 pounds. But, for a car that has M suspension, M brakes, the variable ratio M steering, it feels like a normal 3 Series. It doesn't really have that urge to kind of, bury your foot and redline it to almost 7,000 RPMs. Although at the same time, I am curious.
Yep,
we can go ahead.
Straight.
We can go ahead and put it in sport. We'll go ahead and flick the transmission into manual. Oh my gosh. Oh, that sound is just that is intoxicating. It's like you cannot beat the sound of an inline 6, period. It's like you could fill their hard drives with all the sound qualities and things that you want, but this doesn't sound fake. It sounds natural. And the steering is phenomenal. You get the little farts and the cracks out of the back.
The popcorn.
Oh my gosh. I don't have the $66,500 to buy one of these, but if I did, the one I'm sitting in right now, this is it. Like
color combo too.
Oh gosh, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And I guess what's even weirder is that you actually have an eco setting in here called Eco Pro, and this car will get over 35 miles to the gallon, or right around there. which
33.
is 33. Holy moly. And for a rear wheel drive,
For almost 400 horsepower.
I mean, come on. Oh, this 8-speed Sportronic transmission is just to die for. And the responses are almost dual clutch in a way. It doesn't feel like a regular torque converter automatic. It almost has that sense again that you're driving an M3. But then again, you know, visibility wise in here, I'm looking around in every direction. I can see just about everywhere. There's a teeny bit of a blind spot over your shoulder, but even then you can look right behind you and the seat gives you enough room. You can look out the back window. And not only that, the seats are actually hugging me in just the right way. You know, if you get an M3, you can opt for like the carbon buckets, right? So you have the more race spec feel in a 3 Series, but with this, it's hard to know. And this is what I wanted to ask you. So you have an E90 Series,
Yes.
4-door, space gray, 3 Series sedan. And you absolutely love it. It's been the car that I've known you having for as long as I've known you in general. The thing is, the E90 generation is a very analog car.
It's the last analog.
The last analog 3 Series.
Last naturally aspirated.
Analog 3 Series sports sedan. So, you have an inline 6, this has an inline 6. You don't have a turbo, but at the same time, performance-wise, are they pretty close? Is there that same ethos of the BMW sports sedan underneath, or is it a whole different ball game now that we're in more of like a digital era with screens everywhere?
I will say this is everything's a little bit more computerized, including the steering, the acceleration. This is more of it is a turbocharged car, but it still feels decently analog though. BMW almost simulates it to where it feels analog when it's not analog. It's digital, so that BMW feeling is definitely still there. So it's really close. It's really close in terms of driving, but I don't know. At the same time, you can't completely compare it because an E90 is still an E90, but the G20 platform, it performs better. So you got better acceleration, better handling, better track times, and it's going to be even a little bit more efficient, especially with the hybrid system. So that's always a plus.
I mean, either way, I had to give it one more slight little bit. I mean, oh my gosh. I can still tell that I've never driven your car, but I've been in an E90 Series, 3 Series, and it is so close to this. But I'll tell you what's changed a bit, even though it may have sort of the same sort of philosophies, is how it looks. And although this G20 platform has been with us for at least a couple of years now, it still retains more of that, I guess, typical BMW styling compared to something especially like a G80 M3, where things like the signature twin kidney grills have grown in height, basically taking up the whole middle nose of the car. The G20, however, these grills have grown a little bit more in width compared to height. And before we even get to that, look inside, and there's a reason why this car can get over 30 miles per gallon. You have active grille shutters hidden here behind the upper grille and even more hidden down here below. But this wouldn't be a typical BMW without a little bit of an optional helping hand. The first option, or at least additional cost, comes in the form of one of two brand new colors. This is the Arctic Race Blue metallic exterior, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It's a very deep marine blue with a little bit of a grayish silver undertone. Really accents this car's curves in all the right ways. But you also notice this car is wearing the extended Shadowline package, so things like the twin kidney grills, your lower grille, and even BMW's fully adaptive LED icon headlights with their automatic cornering lenses have all been given a gloss black or Shadowline treatment. Now, in addition to the $60,000 base price and adding up to an almost $67,000 price tag with this car, I have a few little other helping hands, if you will. Things like the parking package with the 360 camera, as well as the Park Assist Plus inside. You also have the optional adaptive radar cruise control, and just little nuances like that that help this car become not just the ultimate driving machine, but one that could definitely save you in the long run. Now, you could have all the power and performance in the world, but a sports sedan isn't a true beast of its nature without being the right size. And at 185.9 inches long, the 3 Series is not quite dead center between the smaller 2 Series Coupe, or Coupe, depending on how you say it, and the much larger all-new 5 Series. Compared to the 2 Series, this is about 6 to 7 inches longer, but compared to the 5, this is well over a foot shorter than its bigger brethren. But what is not so small, I guess, in the M340i's case, is what it's sitting on. These wheels are standard, by the way. They're not BMW individual, and they're not an additional option. These are 19-inch bicolor aluminum alloys, and contrasting beautifully with those bright red M Sport calipers, it is just the right amount of eye candy to let you know this car means some serious business. Now, because this particular version is rear-wheel drive, the front tires are slightly narrower than the ones in the back. You've got 225/40 series Pirelli tires up front, whereas in the back, 255/35 series. Of course, you could have a performance sedan that looks as sleek and as beautiful as ever, but it isn't a true one unless it goes about its technology in the proper way. And for a car that, again, is costing almost $70,000 as shown, well, some people might say that the technology on this thing is a bit more of an old school approach to a sports sedan. It's not to say that what BMW has done is prehistoric, they're just sticking with what they know the best. Starting with the mirrors, you may think it's a bit of a kind of plebeian feature, but the styling of them harks back to the original E30 M3, the E36, the E46, and so on. It's got this little aerodynamic pass-through that separates these blacked out mirrors from the rest of the bodywork. On top, we have a pretty sizable power tilting and sliding sunroof. It doesn't need a panoramic one, to be honest with you, because again, it doesn't need all the tech to be a real sports sedan. But I think the thing that dates this car a little bit more than most people would say is how you get in and out. It still has BMW's Comfort Access keyless access, but the key fob on this thing, well, it's definitely showing its signs of age compared to a lot of other modern Beamers in the fleet. You can tell this one is for an M branded car, however, thanks to the tri-colored stripe on the side, but all the buttons are exactly the same. Unlock, the BMW logo for lock. This one has a power assisted trunk. We have the panic button, and of course, the releasable key blade that can be used to manually lock or unlock the doors. But speaking of doing that, you look at the door handles and they're not really fleshly hidden into the side. They're not electronically actuated. They're just a simple function to do exactly what you want. Now, right now the car is locked. So if I want to unlock the car, I simply grab the handle to get in like I normally would. And if I want to lock it, there's just a little touchpad on the inside of the handle. Okay, so some things might feel a little bit older school than most people might like for, again, an almost $70,000 car. But BMW has countered that objection by continuing the styling's onslaught just here around this car's posterior. The taillights are exactly the same ones you would find on a G80 M3. Obviously, being a 3 Series, it would make no sense at all for the company to change any part about this car between a G20 to a G80. So the taillights are slightly smoked out for things like your turn signals and reversing lights. You've got full LED main lights. You've even got a gloss black subtle diffuser going in between the blacked out exhaust finishers, which aren't quite true duals. I mean, the pipe is a little bit further up in there, but the sound this car makes more than makes up for it. And of course, to tie it all together, you not only have things like the subtle gloss black spoiler, and of course the M badge pasted right there for everyone to see on the trunk lid. But this is, again, still a BMW product, so there has to be something around the back of this car to really kind of catch people's attention, right? Well, that's what happens when you take the key out of your pocket, give one swift little kick under the rear bumper, and even though, like I said, she may not be the biggest sports sedan you'll ever see, when it comes to keeping your stuff safe and undercover, in here is 17 cubic feet of cargo volume, which is about average for not only a sports sedan, but frankly for a lot of today's mid-size sedans. However, there is one little caveat. If you look underneath the floor, unfortunately, there's no spare tire. In this, there's just a big old car battery and a little bit of excess bodywork, and that's about it. So if you're looking for something with a bit of a safety aspect, like a spare tire, unfortunately, this one isn't going to cut the mustard. But in terms of hauling your stuff and keeping it safe, it definitely is up there with the best of them. Now, even though the 3 Series in general has always been about subtle sportiness on the outside while still having enough aesthetic appeal to really draw you in, the other draw with a car like this is that the interiors have always been very businesslike, but almost always focused with the sole job of enjoying the drive. And you get inside the M340, and the first thing you notice are all the little M-specific details, starting with the leather-rimmed steering wheel, which the grips are incredibly thick. You have the tricolor stitching around the inside, the little red 12 o'clock stripe like you'd get in an M3, not to mention the M badge right at the bottom of the wheel. You have the silver paddles, which, while they aren't metal, they have a very authoritative pull to them, and they're resting right in the perfect position to use them, even if you're taking a nice tight corner on a track. This particular car, like I said, has been outfitted with things like the optional radar-guided cruise control, but apart from that, you have all the basic functions you could want here, from your BMW AI assistant to all of your gauge cluster controls, Bluetooth, voice recognition. I mean, literally anything you want is all here, including the subsequent BC button that has been in almost every BMW I've ever been in, which is on the side of the indicator stalk and can control different things within the 12.3-inch display that houses your digital gauge cluster. Now, the cool part about that is it is yet another M Sport design detail. On a normal 3 Series, you wouldn't see an M badge glaring back at you between the adjustable gauges, which on their own literally look like there's something right out of an airliner. The way, even when they adjust, they stay in that sort of vertically stacked position instead of maybe something circular or more traditional looking, it is absolutely typical and true modern BMW. Apart from that, however, you look from what's directly in front of you to the center, and suddenly you're faced with a bit of a confliction, if I may be honest. Yes, you have an almost 15-inch screen for your infotainment, but what's inside of it is a bit of a mystery. Whereas most modern BMWs have iDrive 8.5 or even iDrive 9 at this point, the G20 3 Series still uses iDrive 8. And I had to pause there because it still mystifies me, because yes, BMW has given, I think it's called a service package or something like that, to sort of disguise iDrive 8 as iDrive 8.5 or something higher. But as far as things like the touch responsiveness or anything like that, it's not laggy. It's definitely not, old feeling, but you can definitely tell when you start scrolling through all the icons, and you can see you have wireless Android Auto, wireless CarPlay, like I said, your BMW digital assistant, and even then some with just things like a drive monitor or anything like that. All of it is at the touch of your fingers, but again, it just doesn't have quite that modern feeling like what most BMW owners or buyers would typically look for. However, aside from the slightly confusing infotainment, the other thing that definitely speaks to this car's more luxurious nature is an optional Harman Kardon audio system. And with 16 speakers on board here, there is definitely a lot to say coming from pretty much every direction. Okay, so it might be a little bit confusing as to whether or not the infotainment system is just an old dog but trying to play new tricks, or whether it really is just a new system altogether. But once you get away from the screen, unless you're trying to adjust the climate control, everything is still very businesslike in here. And again, going back to that driver-focused sort of theme, there's not a jillion different buttons to distract you from the job of enjoying the drive. Now, on the subject of that climate control, the first thing you need to know is, aside from the fact that the dual zone system in this car is still within the screen, so from your heated seat controls to the temperature controls, fan adjustments, and so on, the one thing that BMW has improved upon ever so slightly, at least to my knowledge, is how you actually adjust the air in this car. Forget, which zone of the climate you want. If you want to adjust the air in just the right way, instead of a tab in the middle of the central air vents, or at least the ones out on the side as well, they're all controlled by these little joysticks, so it's much more tailorable to make that driving experience a little bit more to someone's liking. Below that, you have things like a physical sound system control, track controls, volume button, and a couple of other things like your front and rear defrost. But then inside the middle of the lower console, we have things like a wireless charger. We have two pretty sizable cup holders, enough to hold a pretty sizable bottle. In this case, you also have BMW's M-styled digital key card for this particular vehicle as well, before you get to the command station in the lower part of the console. And it has everything you typically need, from your start-stop, auto start-stop controls, in this case having more functions for the different parking assist systems, your drive mode select, which we obviously saw in the test drive between Sport Comfort and its Eco Pro setting, not to mention the control station with all of its applicable tabs that you need to access the main pages within the infotainment system. So yes, it might be a little bit more on the basic side for some, but it doesn't mean that the 3 Series is getting old. It just means BMW is sticking with what they know the best. Now, even though the 3 Series is classified as a compact sports sedan, when you're sitting in the back of it, especially at someone around 6 feet tall, 5'11" to 6 feet, it kind of varies depending on the doctor's notes, you may actually find it surprising that you actually still have some space back here when you put these Cognac Sensitech seats in their correct positions, in case anybody was actually wondering what this interior color is actually called. Well, the driver's seat is exactly where I would have it as a normal driver. And as you can see, with the back of the seats being curved, albeit with a bit of plastic, I actually have room to do a little bit of man spreading, if you want to call it that. But it gets even crazier when you not only find out that you can fold down just the center part of these split fold back seats, or even open this armrest to reveal a pretty interesting split cup holder. You'll notice that while BMW sport activity vehicles, i.e. SUVs to you and me, normally have a lot more in terms of rear comforts, the 3 Series doesn't necessarily skimp on that either. Like I said, plenty of room for my legs and plenty of room for my head. That's one thing. But down in between the seats, not only are there individual climate vents, but this thing has its own climate zone back here in the back for just the rear occupants. So I guess I might have been too quick to speak when it came to talking about the climate controls up in the front. But all in all, if you're looking to spend time in the back of a premier bred sports sedan, you really can't go wrong with sitting in the back of even just an ordinary 3 Series. And on that note, everybody, this now concludes our review and drive of the newly updated 2025 BMW M340i. And before we even say another word about this car, yet again, my arms are open wide with the biggest thank you ever to BMW of Houston North. Without their generosity and the ability to work with their inventory like we have over the years, we would not be sitting here talking about some of Germany's best modern ultimate driving machines. So if you guys are interested in not only this particular 3 Series or anything you may have seen in the background of this video, look in the description box below, where I've provided not only the link to their website featuring all of their new and pre-owned inventory, but also a link to their social media where you can always see what they're up to here at BMW of Houston North. But anyways, about the M340i, I mean, this is really a diet M3. If you can't quite stretch to the G80 M3's almost 6-figure price tag in some cases, well, this is a great alternative. It has the power, the performance, the stance, the technology, literally everything you could want at a base price that most people would actually say is pretty reasonable for a high-end branded, luxury-aimed sports sedan. But if you guys have enjoyed learning something, or perhaps you learned something new about the G20 Platform 3 Series, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and also while you're at it, hit the subscribe button down below, because without the support of not only the dealerships that I get to work with, but also from all of you, we would not be where we are to this very day. But at the end of it, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.